Hello, Mosaic. I have with me the Reverend Bo Ireland of the Lazarus Community at the Clark United Methodist Church. And I just wanted to introduce you to him because this year our Christmas Eve offering um, is going to be given to the Lazarus Community. So I want you to hear a little bit about what it's about and just to get it, just to meet Bo a little bit. So Bo, tell us just a little bit about what is the Lazarus Community, first of all?
Absolutely. So, the Lazarus Community is a modern day monastic community that is centered around transitional housing for people coming out of homelessness, while raising people who some would consider as good as dead from the dead, much like Lazarus, but then also raising a church from the dead. And so, Clark United Methodist Church was on the verge of closure. And so, we're raising this church back to life by a return to early Christian disciplines and through mission with those who are most vulnerable in our city.
So if I were experiencing homelessness, how would I hear about Lazarus Community, first of all?
Absolutely. So we're partnering up with a whole bunch of different agencies, from DHS to nonprofit groups, Skyline, but then also North Care and Hope Housing, and the Coalition to End Poverty. And so we're involved with all of those as little avenues that can advertise for us and let someone know that we have an availability.
So if I came there, what would I expect to experience or to receive?
Sure. Well, right now you'd expect to walk into a construction zone. And so we've built one shower for people that come in and drop into the drop-in center and get clean clothes and food and hygiene items, and then also get a shower and companionship. And then in the future, what you would experience is, after construction, you would experience one half of the church being truly devoted towards that drop-in center, with a medical clinic, a mental health clinic, with partner agencies here, food, clothing, all of the other amenities. But then the other half of the church is designated as a monastery. And so we've rezoned the property as a modern day monastery. So we have residential occupancy. My wife and I live here. We'll have 5 other people that can live inside of the building as the core support team. And then we'll have 20 people in transitional housing around the building in hand-built structures, or we may use FEMA trailers if they're more economical. But each of them will be heat and air, 20 amp service, and then also its own restroom and shower.
So when you talk about a monastery or a monastic community, what are the nuts and bolts of that? What does that mean?
Okay, so in the monastery, you're talking to the abbot. So this crazy guy is the abbot of this place. And then we look at a return to disciplines and an embrace of the mystic. And those are two of the most misunderstood words in our Christianity right now, which is piety, which is holiness. Doesn't mean that we're looking down our noses or beating anybody up. It means that we're working on that path to perfection for ourselves. But then also the embrace of the mystery of God, where God just loves us, created us. And so we revel in that. My aim is to be a pious mystic, one who is holy, but reveling in the mystery of God. And we do that through disciplines, and those would be a return to early Christian disciplines, praying the hours, working in service, being connected with God, and practicing the presence of God through all kinds of different service and Lectio yoga. So one of my favorite parts of the week is actually our Lectio yoga class, where we practice stretching our mind, body, and spirit, partnered with a little bit of the reading of the word and a meditation on that. And then we each share, and I don't preach. I love that part.
I know you do have worship, so that's on Sunday mornings,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that.
Sunday morning worship, I believe we're going to call that service shift, because it's a total shift from what it used to be. The pedagogy of sitting in pews facing one direction, we're doing more of a church in the round, and we're sitting at little bistro tables and pub tables, and the sermon is a dialogue. And so there's probably more preaching than a true dialogue, but I invite people to give me their opinions during it. And so we start a conversation in the middle of our worship service. And there are people who are taking showers during worship, people are stepping out to smoke. It's a real free form type of worship service. And then at the end of the worship service, we ask a couple questions, and it is sort of the sermon after the sermon where people sit down and enjoy a meal. And so we have it's kind of a hybrid of dinner church where you would sit down and eat and you would have a conversation about what happened in service. And we also we lift up our joys, our concerns, and we also lift up our complaints. As we've reflected through the Psalms, we see how many times we lift our complaints, and that whole service has had such a shift that we're calling it shift. So it's very laity driven. So the opening, the call to worship, sometimes the preaching, also the prayers of the people, including the complaints, and even the benediction are done by laity. And I'm there to just support and empower the people. I do preach often, but it's turned into a real laity driven service, which is what we aim for.
So somebody might who hasn't heard of this at all might be
Yeah.
wondering how many how many people how many people do you minister with, say in a week's time, that people that might be experiencing life on the streets? What would be kind of your average number of people who your ministry is touching their lives?
Absolutely. So Wednesdays, we have a food pantry that's serving about 10 people a day on that Wednesday. And then on Sundays, we have about 20 people that will come for showers, for clothing, and for a meal. We were at one point operating our drop-in center 5 days out of the week, and it got to be too much. I ended up talking with another partner agency, and they told me that they also operated for 5 days out of the week, but they also had 20 staff paid. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, with 2.5 people, we're doing all right, except we're wearing ourselves to a nub. And so we have drawn that back until we have more staff on ground. At that point, we were seeing 60 to 100 people a week
What about
and 15 to 20 showers a day. So right now, I think this past Sunday, we had 7 people get a shower and 20 people who enjoyed a meal and stayed for worship. They don't have to stay for worship. We did have 4 people that got the shower and left, and that's okay too.
I respect that. So for people who may want to give financially, our Christmas Eve offering, and you can give any time, really up to the 30th. Just give, and then we'll make sure that Lazarus Community gets that check in the new year. But are you taking volunteers as well?
We are. And so we are in the middle of a big building project right now. And so we're painting, installing plumbing, tearing up carpet. It's been a year and a half of renovation on this church, and we've made significant progress. We're doing a big push for the end of the year. And then it'll overflow a little bit into January also, and probably some after that. But if people wanted to help man or woman the food pantry, or come and hang out for shower time, do the clothes pantry. Wednesday is a prime day for that, but I'd take you any day that you wanted to come.
Okay. Well, as you know, or you probably know, we have Ice Angels, and that goes out on
Yeah.
Wednesdays, and we do a lot. And our church, we've got a heart for those on the margins, and so wanted to be sure our church was aware of what you're doing, and we want to support you this year. So we could sit here and talk a lot about homelessness and what the city's doing or what we ought to be doing, and maybe we'll continue
Oh
the
yeah.
conversation. But for now, in the spirit of the season, thank you for taking this time. And people can also look you up, I know, on your website, and we've got that in our bulletin and whatnot. So
Absolutely. And when you're available, send some of the Ice Angels my way. I have about 200 hygiene kits that I want to send to
okay,
your house.
all right, we'll do that. Well, Bo, hope you have a great Christmas and a happy New Year.
Thank you, Scott. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Love you and your congregation. God bless you.